So Thierry, you are senior vice president for Europe for Qatar Airways, which is one of the Middle Eastern airlines, and you're one of the first in the world to start testing this new travel pass, which I gather is a sort of digital passport, which will record somebody's COVID tests and presumably in the future also their COVID vaccines. Is that right?
Yes, as we know, all governments, all of them, want to mitigate the risk of importing COVID through travelers. So in order to reopen the borders as much as we can without quarantine preferably and to restart aviation, we needed a system, or better say a platform, having accurate information on COVID health, status of travelers, and all sorts of information related to that. I'm not sure how familiar you are with the travel pass, Lindsay, but let me just summarize what it does.
Yeah.
It's a digital platform for travelers, which will incorporate basically 4 modules. The first module is a registry of the health requirements. That's a module which will be informing passengers on what tests, on what vaccines or other measures they require prior to travel. If you look in details at all the country regulations regarding COVID, I don't know if you tried, but I have 2 people in my team doing that all the time. You can get very easily lost. It's a headache, really. The regulations differ by country. Sometimes it's very complex, and above all, it keeps changing over time.
Yeah.
So this registry is particularly useful because it's permanently updated. That's number 1. Then second module is a registry of testing and vaccination centers. That gives you the details on where to go to get tested. So that's also very useful. A lot of people don't know they want to travel, but then when it gets to go to the official centers that give you the proper PCR test, valid for travel, then it's another story. So that will be also there as a one-stop shop. And this is the second module. And then the third module is simply a lab app that gives you the ability to share your tests and vaccination results in, a safe, privacy-protecting manner, verifiable manner. So it's like an official vector of communication for your tests and your vaccination results. And the fourth module is, of course, the contactless app, the travel app. Then you travel with it, and you have all this information gathered into one single stop shop or application, basically.
Yeah, but how will it work, for example, with the vaccines? In the UK, we're told at the moment there is no proof, we're not given anything. What will we have to upload to the app as proof that we've had the vaccine?
Well, actually, there is a communication protocol. It's actually, this project is not a Qatar Airways project. It's an IATA project. So it's been the IATA Travel Pass. It's a solution that manages this complexity. So it's a global and a standardized solution. It's not a purely Qatar Airways one, but Qatar Airways will be the first airline in March next month to trial this new app. And we have volunteered for that because we've been working closely with IATA on that project.
So IATA is an international airline body. So presumably IATA's plan is that if this app works, it'll roll it out across all airlines and all airlines will adopt the same app.
This is very much the plan. So we already have, we are already starting to test. So basically you just need to download either the app or, under the airline existing app, you would have a module which is dedicated to this travel pass. So you don't have to do much really, apart from, once you get the tests, your lab will be connected. All the labs who provide those tests will be connected with the IATA digital solution, and we will be able to capture those tests from the IATA platform and import it into the Qatar Airways application. So when you're a traveler, you just, pick up your booking, you have your travel, let's say from London to to Maldives, to take a concrete example, via Doha with Qatar Airways. So you have your booking. From there, you import the rules and regulation that applies between London and Maldives. Do you need a PCR test before traveling, on arrival, on the return? And depending on the date, the answer may differ. So you get all that. So you know exactly what you have to do. And then you go, of course, to one of the centers for vaccination or a center for PCR test that you choose in London, which is also indicated in the app. You go and do this test on site, and then your lab will send you back through the app. You'll be able to recuperate this the results of this test, for instance.
Yeah.
So and therefore you will have it in your app, and then you can share when you arrive at check-in or even before check-in. The app will tell you whether you're okay to travel or not. So you don't need to show the results of your test, for instance, if you don't want to at the check-in. You will just be able to show the mention from the app, the IATA app, which says okay to travel. And if this is displayed on your app, that means that the platform has checked for you and for the airline whether the passengers are respected all the different steps to take to travel to that particular destination on that particular date, if that makes sense.
It does make sense, but I'm just confused as to what we'll do with the vaccine. So when people have been vaccinated, if that becomes a condition of travel for some countries, which they're saying it might do, how will we get that into the app?
Again, all the rules that are in one of the 4 modules include also the rules that apply for people who are already vaccinated. So for instance, if you want to travel to Seychelles, and the Seychelles authorities have decided that the protocol of travel is different from people who have been vaccinated, who have not, then it will be also explained in the app, and you will know exactly what to do on both cases, whether you have been vaccinated. In that case, you may have a certain procedures to follow, or if you have not been vaccinated, and again, the app will tell you exactly what to do in that case.
Yeah.
Probably a PCR test, I suppose.
Yeah. And I gather that the PCR tests are probably going to stay around for quite a long time. And at the moment, to come back into the UK, once we can travel again, we might still need to have a PCR test to return. So will this app tell people where they can get a PCR test in their destination, for example, in the Maldives, so they don't have to start Googling, where to get a PCR test when they're actually on holiday?
Yes, exactly. From the app, you will have access to all the labs who are connected with the apps, which probably will be most of them. So you'll be able to choose the nearest to your hotel, or whether you can do it in transit at the airport on the way back, or if you can order it online. All this will be available on the app.
No, that's great. And when is it likely to be available, do you think? You're starting your test of the app next month, that's right, on Qatar? So when will we see it being rolled out?
Yes, at Qatar Airways, we are a bit passionate about innovation. So when we heard about the excellent initiative from IATA, we immediately volunteered to be a test airline. So we are starting next month. We start first with one route. It's going to be Doha to Istanbul next month. And as soon as the test is successful, it's going to be rolled out, obviously, not only within Qatar Airways and progressively to other airlines as well. So we are very hopeful that it's going to be a long-term solution, not only because of COVID, because I truly believe that it's not, the world after COVID is going to be different, as we all know. And probably, something tells me that this app is going to be useful forever after COVID.
So what sort of other things would we have on the app then if it's beyond COVID? What other sort of thing? All vaccinations, yellow fever, that sort of thing?
Yeah, well, when you travel, sometimes you need to have, to check your vaccinations, or you need a number of things. Probably in the future, governments of different countries will be more specific and more cautious about, not taking any risk of importing, any disease into their country. So I believe that there's still going to be some regulation and restrictions in the future, even once COVID is sorted out, because just people will become more cautious and more prudent, which is fine. So as long as you have an app or a solution to manage this complexity and not be a headache for the traveler, but just a simple and user-friendly solution, then it's not going to be a hurdle to travel anymore.
Yeah. And what approach do you think airlines are going to take to people travelling in huge numbers again once travel restrictions are lifted by the various countries? Are you putting safety measures in place? Do you think it's likely that airlines will ask people to have the vaccine in order to travel, or that they'll still have to have tests to travel? What's the view from airlines?
Well, firstly, I'm proud to say that number one, we never stopped flying throughout this pandemic. So it's not really, when travel resumes. For us, travel never stopped. We fulfilled our mission of taking stranded passengers home during all this COVID crisis, on scheduled flights, on charter flights. We were able to do this thanks to the incredible efforts of our staff who stayed, on the deck during all this crisis. We didn't disappear. We were there. It gave us some experience also over this COVID crisis as an airline. And maybe, if you allow me, Lindsay, some legitimacy, some credibility to talk about this crisis and the experience we have acquired on the subject matter. First, it is worth to mention that Qatar Airways became the first global airline in the world to achieve the 5-star COVID-19 airline safety rating by Skytrax. So very few airlines have received this very prestigious mark of 5-star by Skytrax, Skytrax is a prestigious airline rating company. And so we've been ranking among the best in the safety, airline safety. And all that, is due to the measures we have taken as an airline, and not only as an airline, maybe we'll say a few words on that after, but also as an airport, because HIA, which is our Doha airport, has also taken similar measures as what we did. So what did we do? First of all, we took, of course, a number of onboard safety measures. There is a long list, but I'll give you just a few, just to give you a flavor. Basically, many airlines take basic measures, and we also do, but the difference is made on the extra miles, or the 2 extra miles, or the 10 extra miles, some airlines are doing, like Qatar Airways done. For instance, I give you this example of onboard safety measures that we've taken with the provision of personal protective equipment, what we call PPE for cabin crew. So, of course, they have their glamorous uniform, but they also cover themselves during the flight with this PPE equipment to reduce the risk. We distribute, of course, complimentary protective kit for passengers. That includes not only the mask, but also the screens for the economy class passengers, where the distance are a little bit less. The business class passengers on aircraft are equipped with aircraft that are equipped with Q Suite. Well, of course, they enjoy the enhanced privacy of this business seat with more social distancing. That includes the sliding privacy partitions and so on and so forth. And in addition to that, we are also using the most advanced, sorry to be technical, filtration systems that we call HEPA on board all aircrafts. We also have become recently the first airline to introduce a state-of-the-art ultraviolet cabin system. That is a robot that is circulating during the time of cabin cleaning, and we are actually cleaning a second time. There is a usual cabin cleaning, and then we have this robot which, with huge ultraviolet cabin system, is exterminating all the germs and bacteria and viruses that could be included in the fabric of the airline seats. So this is a very sophisticated system that we have been the first one to implement. So just give you a few. I mean, I could give a very long list of measures. I'm just trying to give you a flavor of how much we invest in that to ensure the safety of our passengers during the pandemic.
And do you think those measures will continue after, into the future? Do you think even when people have been vaccinated, even when people are travelling with PCR tests, will you continue with those?
Yes.
Sanitization methods?
Yes, of course. I think I think we we all learned a lesson. I mean, of course, it depends. Each airline will probably react differently. I can tell you that in case of Qatar Airways, with the experience we have acquired during this crisis, we'll continue on this successful and winning strategy to gain and keep the confidence of our travelers. I think this is a key word. This is confidence. So we are ready to do whatever it takes to keep the confidence of our valued customers, and also do what makes sense for them to protect them for any risk. So as an airline, when you have a confined space where people are sitting all together during a few hours, it's only fair that you do whatever it takes to protect the customers from any risk of that sort in future.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about how safe it is to fly during the pandemic, with airlines and IATA saying there's a very little risk that people don't get sick on planes because of those HEPA filters you've got and all the rest of it. But then other people saying, well, how would you know whether somebody's got sick on a flight or not? Because they're not going to be immediately ill. It will take a few days. What are your thoughts on that, and how safe it really is anyway?
Well, actually, we do measure what's the contamination rate on board. We are actually one of the few airlines, if not the only one, who have published our figures. The safety of, 99.988% of passengers travel COVID-free on board our flights. That means that the risk of catching COVID on board a QR flight, a Qatar Airways flight, is far less than the risk that you run when you walk in the street, for instance.
But how do you know that? How do you know that it's 99% free?
Because we just spot the cases that we detect on board, either after the flight or during the flight, or sometimes just before boarding, and we just keep a track record of them. And that's how we make an estimate. Likewise, we also measure the cases for our cabin crew that have been affected. And likewise, it's a very small rate, again, 0.002%
of the crew affected.
Of the crew are affected. And no case has been recorded since we introduced with the crew, since we introduced the full PPE in-flight uniform. In May 2020. So since May, we didn't have any other cases.
Right, okay. And when do you, I know this is a bit of a crystal ball question, but when do you envisage things will start to pick up? I know you're still travelling, you say you're still flying, but when do you think countries will start to open their borders again and will start to be able to travel? Have you got any feel on that?
Yes, sure. Firstly, it's really highly dependent on the entry restrictions around the world. This is the biggest impediment, obviously, for many people who would like to travel again. I don't think they are scared to fly anymore. Most people understood that some airlines took this really seriously, and it's really safe to fly with an airline like us, for instance. However, we expect passenger to increase gradually, either because the entry restrictions around the world will ease, and you can see in some countries, for instance, in Seychelles, starting mid-March, you're going to be able to travel to Seychelles as long as your home government allows it, of course. You're going to be able to travel to Seychelles mid-March with no quarantine anymore in a hotel during 10 days, as it is the case now. Why? Because all the population in Seychelles is going to be vaccinated by mid-March, and therefore the risk for the population is not going to be high. It's going to be very small, and therefore you just need to travel with a PCR test to Seychelles and enjoy the Seychelles beaches without any quarantine prior to that.
And that's one of the big destinations, is it, for you, for people flying from the UK? Because I'm guessing that most people from the UK travelling on Qatar, if they're not on business, they're probably going to Doha and on to somewhere else. They're not going to Qatar, are they?
Yes, that's right. A big majority. We are very much a global connector, so we offer connections to many destinations in the world. Seychelles is part of them. Maldives is very successful at the moment, and Zanzibar in Tanzania, and destination like that. So I think, as and when restrictions are being relaxed, will be relaxed, both at the country of origin and destination. Then you will see gradually the travelers getting back to on board the planes. I believe, honestly, travel is part of the human DNA. It's been gone for a while during COVID, but since the beginning of this crisis, I hear so many people saying they have a desire to travel, to connect with their beloved ones who live overseas, or to go to the beach, or to go and visit other cultures, or for the business travelers who are willing to be in touch again with their customers. It's not only WebEx and Skype meetings. It's also about shaking hands, meeting people, and you can't do business only by email. You also have to really meet and feel your provider, your customer. So this is also very important, and I believe that travel we get back.
But airlines and hotels, other tourism products have lost an awful lot of money during the crisis. What's going to happen with airfares, do you think? Are you going to have to ramp them up in order to make back that money, or are you going to reduce them in order to get people traveling again?
We believe that airfares will remain competitive. You know very well that airline business is extremely competitive, maybe one of the most competitive business. So there is never rest on the airfares side. I think, however, I think people will be a little bit less price sensitive than they have been before. I think they will be more and more cognizant about what are the pros and cons of each airline. They will probably be more demanding in terms of safety measures, in terms of comfort, in terms of carbon footprint also. And for all those elements are not really part of the price. And I believe strongly that more and more people are going to be able to accept a premium on safety, on carbon footprint, or on comfort.
Interesting.
In the case of Qatar Airways, I think we can probably tick the 3 boxes without being arrogant, but we worked so hard on it. So I'd like to say that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I wish you an awful lot of luck. I hope that we get out of this crisis soon and you can start flying lots and lots of people again. Thank you ever so much for talking to me.
Thank you very much. You're welcome, Lindsay.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.